The road to riches. Riches are of the mind. Let us suppose for a moment that a physician's diploma was stolen together with her office equipment. I am sure you would agree that her wealth was in her mind. She could still carry on, diagnose disease, prescribe, operate, and lecture on materia medica. Only her symbols were stolen. She could always get additional supplies. Her riches were in her mental capacity, knowledge to help others, and her ability to contribute to humanity in general. You will always be wealthy when you have an intense desire to contribute to the good of humanity. Your urge for service, i.e., to give of your talents to the world, will always find a response in the heart of the universe. I knew a man in New York during the financial crisis of 1929 who lost everything he had, including his home and all his life savings. I met him after a lecture which I had given at one of the hotels in the city. This was what he said: "I lost everything. I made $1 million in 4 years. I will make it again. All I have lost is a symbol. I can again attract the symbol of wealth in the same way as honey attracts flies." I followed the career of this man for several years to discover the key to his success. The key may seem strange to you, yet it is a very old one. The name he gave the key was "change water into wine." He read this passage in the Bible and he knew it was the answer to perfect health, happiness, peace of mind, and prosperity. Wine in the Bible always means the realization of your desires, urges, plans, dreams, propositions, etc. In other words, it is the things you wish to accomplish, achieve, and bring forth. Water in the Bible usually refers to your mind or consciousness. Water takes the shape of any vessel into which it is poured. Likewise, whatever you feel and believe as true will become manifest in your world. Thus, you are always changing water into wine. The Bible was written by illumined people. It teaches practical, everyday psychology and a way of life. One of the cardinal tenets of the Bible is that you determine, mold, fashion, and shape your own destiny through the right thought, feeling, and beliefs. It teaches you that you can solve any problem, overcome any situation, and that you are born to succeed, to win, and to triumph. In order to discover the royal road to riches and receive the strength and security necessary to advance in life, you must cease viewing the Bible in the traditional way. The above man, who was in a financial crisis, used to say to himself frequently during the days when he was without funds, "I can change water into wine." These words meant to him, I can exchange the poverty ideas in my mind for the realization of my present desires or needs, which are wealth and financial supply. His mental attitude, water, was, once I made a fortune honestly, I will make it again, wine. His regular affirmation consisted of, I attracted the symbol, money, once. I am attracting it again. I know this and feel it is true, wine. This man went to work as a salesman for a chemical organization. Ideas for the better promotion of their products came to him. He passed them on to his organization. It was not long until he became vice president. Within 4 years, the company made him president. His constant mental attitude was, I can change water into wine. Look upon the story in John of changing water into wine in a figurative way, and say to yourself, as the above-mentioned chemical salesman did, I can make the invisible ideas, urges, dreams, and desires of mine visible, because I have discovered a simple, universal law of mind. The law he demonstrated is the law of action and reaction. It means your external world, body, circumstances, environment, and financial status are always a perfect reflection of your inner thinking, beliefs, feelings, and convictions. This being true, you can now change your inner pattern of thought by dwelling on the idea of success, wealth, and peace of mind. As you busy your mind with these latter concepts, these ideas will gradually seep into your mentality like seeds planted in the ground. As all seeds, thoughts, and ideas grow after their kind, so will your habitual thinking and feeling manifest in prosperity, success, and peace of mind. Wise thought, action, is followed by right action, reaction. You can acquire riches when you become aware of the fact that prayer is a marriage feast. The feast is a psychological one. You meditate on, mentally eat of, your good or your desire until you become one with it. I will now cite a case history from my files relating how a young woman performed her first miracle in transforming water into wine. She operated a very beautiful hair salon. Her mother became ill and she had to devote considerable time at home neglecting her business. During her absence, 2 of her assistants embezzled funds. She was forced into bankruptcy, losing her home and finding herself deeply in debt. She was unable to pay hospital bills for her mother, and she was now unemployed. I explained to this woman the magic formula of changing water into wine. Again, we made it clear to her that wine means answered prayer or the objectification of her ideal. She was quarreling with the outside world. She said, "Look at the facts. I've lost everything. It is a cruel world. I can't pay my bills. I do not pray, for I have lost hope." She was so absorbed and engrossed in the material world that she was completely oblivious to the internal cause of her situation. As we talked, she began to understand that she had to resolve the quarrel in her mind. No matter what your desire or ideal is, as you listen to this book, you will also find some thought or idea in your mind opposed to it. For example, your desire may be for health. Perhaps there are several thoughts such as these in your mind simultaneously. I can't be healed. I have tried, but it's no use. It's getting worse. I don't know enough about spiritual mind healing. As you study yourself, don't you have a tug of war in your mind? Like this young woman, you find environment and external affairs challenging your desire of expression, wealth, and peace of mind. True prayer is a mental marriage feast, and it teaches us all how to resolve the mental conflict. In prayer, you write what you believe in your own mind. Emerson said, "A person is what they think all day long." By your habitual thinking, you make your own mental laws of belief. By repeating a certain train of thought, you establish definite opinions and beliefs in the deeper mind called the subconscious. Then such mental acceptances, beliefs, and opinions direct and control all the outer actions. To understand this and begin to apply it is the first step in changing water into wine, or changing lack and limitation into abundance and opulence. The person who is unaware of their own inner spiritual powers is therefore subject to mass beliefs, lack, and limitation. Open your Bible now and perform your first miracle as this beautician did. You can do it. If you merely read the Bible as a historical event, you will miss the spiritual, mental, scientific view of the laws of mind with which we are concerned in this book. Let us take this passage. "And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there." Galilee means your mind or consciousness. Cana means your desire. The marriage is purely mental, or the subjective embodiment of your desire. This whole beautiful drama of prayer is a psychological one, in which all the characters are mental states, feelings, and ideas within you. One of the meanings of Jesus is illumined reason. The mother of Jesus means the feeling, moods, or emotions which possess us. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. Your disciples are your inner powers and faculties, enabling you to realize your desires. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, They have no wine. Wine, as we have stated, represents the answered prayer, or the manifestation of your desire and ideals in life. You can now see this is an everyday drama taking place in your own life. When you wish to accomplish something as this girl did, namely finding work, supply, and a way out of your problem, suggestions of lack come to you, such as, "There's no hope. All is lost. I can't accomplish it. It's hopeless." This is the voice from the outside world saying to you, "They have no wine," or "Look at the facts." This is your feeling of lack, limitation, or bondage speaking. How do you meet the challenge of circumstances and conditions? By now you are getting acquainted with the laws of mind, which are as follows. As I think and feel inside, so is my outside world, i.e. my body, finances, environment, social position, and all phases of my external relationship to the world and humankind. Your internal mental movements and imagery govern, control, and direct the external plane in your life. The Bible says, "As a person thinketh in their heart, so are they." The heart is a Chaldean word meaning the subconscious mind. In other words, your thought must reach subjective levels by engaging the power of your subliminal self. Thought and feeling are your destiny. Thought charged with feeling and interest is always subjectified and becomes manifest in your world. Prayer is a marriage of thought and feeling, or your idea and emotion. This is what the marriage feast relates. Any idea or desire of the mind felt as true comes to pass, whether it is good, bad, or indifferent. Knowing the law now that what you imagine and feel in your mind you will express, manifest, or experience in the outside enables you to begin to discipline your mind. With the suggestion of lack, fear, doubt, or despair, "They have no wine," comes to your mind, immediately reject it mentally by focusing your attention at once on the answered prayer or the fulfillment of your desire. Negative suggestions have no power or reality because there's nothing to back them up. A suggestion of lack has no power. The power is resident in your own thought and feeling. What does God mean to you? God is the name given to the one spiritual power. God is the one invisible source from which all things flow. When your thoughts are constructive and harmonious, the spiritual power being responsive to your thought flows as harmony, health, and abundance. Practice the wonderful discipline of completely rejecting every thought of lack by immediately recognizing the availability of the spiritual power and its response to your constructive thoughts and imagery. We read, "Mine hour is not yet come." This means that while you have not yet reached a conviction or positive state of mind, you know you are on the way mentally because you are engaging your mind on the positive ideals, goals, and objectives in life. Whatever the mind dwells upon, it multiplies, magnifies, and causes it to grow until finally the mind becomes qualified with the new state of consciousness. You are then conditioned positively, whereas before you were conditioned negatively. The spiritual person in prayer moves from the mood of lack to the mood of confidence, peace, and trust in the spiritual power within themselves. Since their trust and faith are in the spiritual power, their mother, moods and feeling, registers a feeling of triumph or victory. This will bring about the solution or the answer to your prayer. The water pots in the story from the Bible refer to the mental cycles that humanity goes through in order to bring about the subjective realization of desire. The length of time may be a moment, hour, week, or month, depending on the faith and state of consciousness of the student. In prayer, we must cleanse our mind of false beliefs, fear, doubt, and anxiety by becoming completely detached from the evidence of senses and the external world. In the peacefulness and quietude of your mind, wherein you have stilled the wheels of your mind, meditate on the joy of the answered prayer until that inner certitude comes, whereby you know that you know. When you have succeeded in being one with your desire, you have succeeded in the mental marriage, or the union of your feeling with your idea. I am sure you wish to be married to, be one with, health, harmony, success, and achievement in your mind at this moment. Every time you pray, you are trying to perform the marriage feast of Cana, realization of your desire or ideas. You want to be mentally identified with the concept of peace, success, well-being, and perfect health. They filled them up to the brim. The filled water pots represent your own mind in the spiritual and mental creative act. You must fill your mind to the brim, meaning you must become filled full of the feeling of being what you long to be. When you succeed in filling your mind with the ideal you wish to accomplish or express, you are full to the brim. Then you cease praying about it, for you feel its reality in your mind. You know it is a finished state of consciousness. You are at peace about it. And he saith unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. Whatever is impregnated in our subconscious mind is always objectified on the screen of space. Consequently, when we enter a state of conviction that our prayer is answered, we have given the command, bear unto the governor of the feast. You are always governing your mental feast. During the day, thousands of thoughts, suggestions, opinions, sights, and sounds reach your eyes and ears. You can reject them as unfit for mental consumption or entertain them as you choose. Your conscious, reasoning, intellectual mind is the governor of the feast. When you consciously choose to entertain, meditate, feast upon, and imagine your heart's desire as true, it becomes a living embodiment and a part of your mentality, so that your deeper self gives birth or expression to it. In other words, what is impressed subjectively is expressed objectively. Your senses or conscious mind see the objectification of your good. When the conscious mind becomes aware of water made into wine, it becomes aware of the answered prayer. Water might be called also the invisible, formless, spiritual power, unconditioned consciousness. Wine is conditioned consciousness, or the mind giving birth to its beliefs and convictions. The servants which draw the water for you represent the mood of peace, confidence, and faith. According to your faith or feeling, your good is attracted or drawn to you. Imbibe, cherish, fall in love with these spiritual principles which are discussed in this book. In the first recorded miracle of Jesus, you are told that prayer is a marriage feast, or the mind uniting with its desire. Love is the fulfilling of the law. Love is really an emotional attachment, a sense of oneness with your good. You must be true to that which you love. You must be loyal to your purpose or to your ideal. We're not being true to the one we love when we are flirting or mentally entertaining other marriages with fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, or false beliefs. Love is a state of oneness, a state of fulfillment. When this simple drama was explained to the beautician mentioned earlier, she became rich mentally. She understood this drama and she put it into practice in her life. This is how she prayed. She knew that the water, her own mind, would flow and fill up all the empty vessels in response to her new way of thinking and feeling. At night, this client became very quiet and still, relaxed her body, and began to use constructive imagery. The steps she used are as follows. First step, she began to imagine the local bank manager was congratulating her on her wonderful deposits in the bank. She kept imagining that for about 5 minutes. The second step, in her imagination, she heard her mother saying to her, "I am so happy about your wonderful new position." She continued to hear her say this in a happy, joyous way for about 3 to 5 minutes. The third step, vividly, she imagined this author was in front of her performing her marriage ceremony. This woman heard me saying, as the officiating minister, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Completing this routine, she went off to sleep feeling filled full, i.e., sensing and feeling within herself the joy of the answered prayer. Nothing happened for 3 weeks. In fact, things got much worse, but she persevered, refusing to take no for her answer. She knew that in order to grow spiritually, she too had to perform her first miracle by changing her fear to faith, her mood of lack to a mood of opulence and prosperity, by changing consciousness, water, into the conditions, circumstances, and experiences she wished to express. Consciousness, awareness, beingness, principle, spirit, or whatever name you give it, is the cause of all. It is the only presence and power. The spiritual power or spirit within us is the cause and substance of all things. All things. Birds, trees, stars, sun, moon, earth, gold, silver, and platinum are its manifestations. It is the cause and substance of all things. There is none else. Understanding this, she knew that water, consciousness, could become supply in the form of money, true place, or true expression for herself, health for her mother, as well as companionship and fullness of life. She saw this simple yet profound truth in the twinkling of an eye and said to me, "I accept my good." She knew that nothing is hidden from us. All of God is within us, waiting for our discovery and inquiry. In less than a month, this young girl got married. This author performed the ceremony. I pronounced the words she heard me say over and over again in her meditative, relaxed state. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Her husband gave her a check for $24,000 as a wedding present, as well as a trip around the world. Her new expression as a beautician was to beautify her home and garden and make the desert of her mind rejoice and blossom as the rose. She changed water into wine. Water or her consciousness became charged or conditioned by her constant, true, happy imagery. These images, when sustained regularly, systematically, and with faith in the developing powers of the deeper mind, will come out of the darkness, subconscious mind, into light, objectified on the screen of space. There is one important rule. Do not expose this newly developed film to the shattering light of fear, doubt, despondency, and worry. Whenever worry or fear knocks at your door, immediately turn to the picture you developed in your mind and say to yourself, "A beautiful picture is being developed now in the dark house of my mind." Mentally pour on that picture your feeling of joy, faith, and understanding. You know you have operated a psychological, spiritual law, for what is impressed shall be expressed. It is wonderful. The following is a sure, certain way for developing and manifesting all the material riches and supply you need all the days of your life. If you apply this formula sincerely and honestly, you should be amply rewarded on the external plane. I will illustrate this by telling you of a man who came to see me in London in desperate financial straits. He was a member of the Church of England and had studied the working of the subconscious mind to some extent. I told him to say frequently during the day, "God is the source of my supply, and all my needs are met at every moment of time and point of space." I told him to think also of all the animal life in this world and in all the galaxies of space which are now being taken care of by an infinite intelligence. Notice how nature is lavish, extravagant, and bountiful. Think of the fish of the sea, which are all being sustained, as well as the birds of the air. He began to realize that since he was born, he had been taken care of, fed by his mother, clothed by his father, and watched over by tender, loving parents. This man got a job and was paid in a wonderful way. He reasoned that it was illogical to assume that the principle of life which gave him life and always took care of him would suddenly cease to respond to him. He realized that he had cut off his own supply by resenting his employer, self-condemnation, criticism of himself, and by his own sense of unworthiness. He had psychologically severed the cord which joined him to the infinite source of all things, the indwelling spirit or life principle called by some consciousness or awareness. Humanity is not fed like the birds. It must consciously commune with the indwelling power and presence and receive guidance, strength, vitality, and all things necessary for the fulfillment of its needs. This is the formula which he used to change water into the wine of abundance and financial success. He realized God, or the spiritual power within him, was the cause of all. Furthermore, he realized that if he could sell himself the idea that wealth was his by divine right, he would manifest abundance of supply. The affirmation he used was, God is the source of my supply. All my financial and other needs are met at every moment of time and point of space. There is always a divine surplus. This simple statement, repeated frequently, knowingly, and intelligently, conditioned his mind to a prosperity consciousness. All he had to do was to sell himself this positive idea, in the same way a good salesperson has to sell themselves on the merits of the product. Such a person is convinced of the integrity of their company, the high quality of the product, the good service which it will give the customer, and the fact that the price is right, etc. I told him whenever negative thoughts came to his mind, which would happen, not to fight them or quarrel with them in any way, but simply go back to the spiritual, mental formula and repeat it quietly and lovingly to himself. Negative thoughts came to him in avalanches at times in the form of a flood of negativity. Each time he met them with a positive, firm, loyal conviction. God supplies all my needs. There is a divine surplus in my life. He said as he drove his car and went through his day's routine that a host of sundry, miscellaneous negative concepts crowded his mind from time to time, such as, there is no hope. You are broke. Each time such negative thoughts came, he refused their mental admission by turning to the eternal source of wealth, health, and all things which he knew to be his own spiritual awareness. Definitely and positively he claimed, God is the source of my supply, and that supply is mine now. Or, there is a divine solution. God's wealth is my wealth. And other affirmative positive statements which charged his mind with hope, faith, expectancy, and ultimately a conviction in an ever-flowing fountain of riches, supplying all his needs copiously, joyously, and endlessly. The negative flood of thoughts came to him as often as 50 times in an hour. Each time he refused to open the door of his mind to these gangsters, assassins, and thieves, which he knew would only rob him of peace, wealth, success, and all good things. Instead, he opened the door of his mind to the idea of God's eternal life principle of supply, flowing through him as wealth, health, energy, power, and all things necessary to lead a full and happy life here. As he continued to do this, the second day, not so many thieves knocked at his door. The third day, the flow of negative visitors was less. The fourth day, they came intermittently, hoping for admission, but receiving the same mental response. No entrance. I accept only thoughts and concepts which activate, heal, bless, and inspire my mind. He reconditioned his consciousness or mind to a wealth consciousness. The prince of this world cometh and hath nothing in me. This conveyed to his mind the negative thoughts such as fear, lack, worry, anxiety came, but they received no response from his mind. He was now immune, God intoxicated, and seized by a divine faith in an ever-expanding consciousness of abundance and financial supply. This man did not lose everything, neither did he go into bankruptcy. He was given extended credit, his business improved, new doors opened up, and he prospered. Remember always in the prayer process, you must be loyal to your ideal, purpose, and objective. Many people fail to realize wealth and financial success because they pray two ways. They affirm God is their supply and that they are divinely prospered, but a few minutes later they deny their good by saying, I can't pay this bill. I can't afford this, that, or the other thing. Or they say to themselves, a jinx is following me. I can't ever make ends meet. I never have enough to go around. All such statements are highly destructive and neutralize your positive prayers. This is what is called praying two ways. You must be faithful to your plan or your goal. You must be true to your knowledge of the spiritual power. Cease making negative marriages, i.e., uniting with negative thoughts, fears, and worries. Prayer is like a captain directing the course of her ship. You must have a destination. You must know where you are going. The captain of the ship, knowing the laws of navigation, regulates her course accordingly. If the ship is turned from its course by storms or unruly waves, she calmly redirects it along its true course. You are the captain on the bridge, and you are giving the orders in the way of thoughts, feelings, opinions, beliefs, moods, and mental tones. Keep your eye on the beam. You go where your vision is. Cease, therefore, looking at all the obstacles, delays, and impediments that would cause you to go off your course. Be definite and positive. Decide where you are going. Know that your mental attitude is the ship which will take you from the mood of lack and limitation to the mood and feeling of opulence, and to the belief in the inevitable law of God working for you. Quimby, who was a doctor, a wonderful student and teacher of the mental and spiritual laws of mind, said, "A person acts as they are acted upon." What moves you now? What is it that determines your response to life? The answer is as follows. Your ideas, beliefs, and opinions activate your mind and condition you to the point that you become, as Quimby stated, an expression of your beliefs. This illustrates the truth of Quimby's statement, "A person is belief expressed." Another popular statement of Quimby's was, "Our minds mingle like atmospheres, and each person has their identity in that atmosphere." When you were a child, you were subject to the moods, feelings, beliefs, and the general mental atmosphere of the home. The fears, anxieties, superstitions, as well as the religious faith and convictions of your parents were impressed on your mind. Let us say the child had been brought up in a poverty-stricken home in which there was never enough to go around, financially speaking. It heard constantly the complaint of lack and limitation. You could say, like Salter in his conditioned reflex therapy, that the child was conditioned to poverty. The young person may have a poverty complex based on their early experiences, training, and beliefs, but they can rise above any situation and become free. This is done through the power of prayer. I knew a young boy aged 17 who was born in a place called Hell's Kitchen in New York. He listened to some lectures I was giving in Steinway Hall, New York, at the time. This boy realized that he had been the victim of negative, destructive thinking, and that if he did not redirect his mind along constructive channels, the world mind, with its fears, failures, hates, and jealousies, would move in and control him. A person acts as they are acted upon. It stands to reason, as Quimby knew, that if humanity will not take charge of its own house, mind, the propaganda, false beliefs, fears, and worries of the phenomenalistic world will act as a hypnotic spell over it. We are immersed in mass consciousness, which believes in sickness, death, misfortune, accident, failures, disease, and diverse disasters. Follow the biblical injunction. Come out from among them and be separate. Identify yourself mentally and emotionally with the eternal verities which have stood the test of time. This young man decided to think and plan for himself. He decided to take the royal road to riches by accepting God's abundance here and now, and to fill his mind with spiritual concepts and perceptions. He knew as he did this, he would automatically crowd out of his mind all negative patterns. He adopted a simple process called scientific imagination. He had a wonderful voice, but it was not cultivated or developed. I told him the image he gave attention to in his mind would be developed in his deeper mind and come to pass. He understood this to be a law of mind, a law of action and reaction, i.e., the response of the deeper mind to the mental picture held in the conscious mind. This young man would sit down quietly in his room at home, relax his whole body, and vividly imagine himself singing before a microphone. He would actually reach out for the feel of the instrument. He would hear me congratulate him on his wonderful contract and tell him how magnificent his voice was. By giving his attention and devotion to this mental image regularly and systematically, a deep impression was made on his subconscious mind. A short time elapsed, and an Italian voice instructor in New York gave him free lessons several times a week because he saw his possibilities. He got a contract which sent him abroad to sing in the salons of Europe, Asia, South Africa, and other places. His financial worries were over, for he also received a wonderful salary. His hidden talents and ability to release them were his real riches. These talents and powers within all of us are God-given. Let us release them. Did you ever say to yourself, how can I be more useful to my fellow creatures? How can I contribute more to humanity? A minister friend of mine told me that in his early days, he and his church suffered financially. His technique or process was this simple prayer, which worked wonders for him. God reveals to me better ways to present the truths of God to my fellow creatures. Money poured in. The mortgage was paid in a few years, and he has never worried about money since. As you listen to this chapter, you have now learned that the inner feelings, moods, and beliefs of a person always control and govern their external world. The inner movements of the mind control the outer movements. To change the outside, you must change the inside. As in heaven, so on earth. Or as in my mind or consciousness, so is it in my body, circumstances, and environment. The Bible says, there is nothing hidden that shall not be revealed. For example, if you are sick, you are revealing a mental and emotional pattern, which is the cause. If you are upset or if you receive tragic news, notice how you reveal it in your face, eyes, gestures, tonal qualities, also in your gait and posture. As a matter of fact, your whole body reveals your inner distress. You could, of course, through mental discipline and prayer, remain absolutely poised, serene and calm, refusing to betray your hidden feelings or mental states. You could order the muscles of your body to relax, be quiet, and be still. They would have to obey you. Your eyes, face, and lips would not betray any sign of grief, anger, or despondency. On the other hand, with a little discipline, through prayer and meditation, you could reverse the entire picture. Even though you had received disturbing news, regardless of its grave nature, you could show and exhibit joy, peace, relaxation, and a vibrant, buoyant nature. No one would ever know that you were the recipient of so-called bad news. Regardless of what kind of news you received today, you could go to the mirror, look at your face, lips, eyes, and your gestures as you tell yourself and imagine you have heard the news of having received a vast fortune. Dramatize it, feel it, thrill to it, and notice how your whole body responds to the inner thrill. You can reverse any situation through prayer. Busy your mind with the concepts of peace, success, wealth, and happiness. Identify yourself with these ideas mentally, emotionally, and pictorially. Get a picture of yourself as you want to be. Retain that image, sustain it with joy, faith, and expectancy. Finally, you will succeed in experiencing its manifestation. I say to people who consult me regarding financial lack to marry wealth. Some see the point, others do not. As all Bible students know, your spouse is what you are mentally joined to, united with, or at one with. In other words, what you conceive and believe, you give it conception. If you believe the world is cold, cruel, and harsh, that it is a dog-eat-dog way of life, that is your concept. You are married to it, and you will have children or issue by that marriage. The children from such a mental marriage or belief will be your experiences, conditions, and circumstances, together with all other events in your life. All your experiences and reactions to life will be the image and likeness of the ideas which parented them. Look at the many spouses the average person is living with, such as fear, doubt, anxiety, criticism, jealousy, and anger. These play havoc with their mind. Marry wealth by claiming, feeling, and believing, God supplies all my needs according to its riches in glory. Or take the following statement and repeat it over and over again, knowingly, until your consciousness is conditioned by it, or it becomes a part of your meditation. I am divinely expressed, and I have a wonderful income. Do not say this in a parrot-like fashion, but know that your train of thought is being engraved in your deeper mind, and it becomes a conditioned state of consciousness. Let the phrase become meaningful to you. Pour life, love, and feeling on it, making it alive. One of my students recently opened a restaurant. He phoned me saying that he got married to a restaurant. He meant that he had made up his mind to be very successful, diligent, and persevering, and to see that his business prospered. This man's spouse, mental state, was his belief in the accomplishment of his desire or wish. Identify yourself with your aim in life and cease mental marriages with criticism, self-condemnation, anger, fear, and worry. Give attention to your chosen ideal, being full of faith and confidence in the inevitable law of prosperity and success. You will accomplish nothing by loving your ideal 1 minute and denying it the next minute. This is like mixing acid and an alkali, for you will get an inert substance. In going along the royal road to riches, you must be faithful to your chosen ideal, your spouse. We find illustrations in the Bible relating to these same truths. For instance, Eve came out of Adam's rib. Your rib is your concept, desire, idea, plan, goal, or aim in life. Eve means the emotion, feeling nature, or the inner tone. In other words, you must mother the idea. The idea must be mothered, loved, and felt as true in order to manifest your aim in life. The idea is the father. The emotion is the mother. This is the marriage feast which is always taking place in your mind. Ouspensky spoke of the third element which entered in or was formed following the union of your desire and feeling. He called it the neutral element. We may call it peace, for God is peace. The Bible says, and the government shall be on his shoulders. In other words, let divine wisdom be your guide. Let the subjective wisdom within you lead, guide, and govern you in all your ways. Turn over your request to this indwelling presence. knowing in your heart and soul that it will dissipate the anxiety, heal the wound, and restore your soul to equanimity and tranquility. Open your mind and heart and say, God is my pilot. God leads me. God prospers me. God is my counselor. Let your prayer be night and morning, I am a channel through which God's riches flow ceaselessly, copiously, and freely. Write that prayer in your heart. Inscribe it in your mind. Keep on the beam of God's glory. The person who does not know the inner workings of their own mind is full of burdens, anxieties, and worries, for they have not learned how to cast their burden on the indwelling presence and go free. A Zen monk was asked by his disciple, "What is truth?" He replied in a symbolic way by taking the bag off his back and placing it on the ground. The disciple then asked him, "Master, how does it work?" The Zen monk, still silent, placed the bag on his back and walked on down the road singing to himself. The bag is your burden or your problem. You cast it on the subjective wisdom which knows all and has the know-how of accomplishment. It knows only the answer. Placing the bag again on his back means, though I still have the problem, I now have mental rest and relief from the burden because I have invoked the divine wisdom on my behalf. Therefore I sing the song of triumph, knowing that the answer to my prayer is on the way, and I sing for the joy that is set before me. It is wonderful. Every person at the beginning doth set forth good wine, and when all have well drunk, then that which is worse. But thou hast kept the good wine until now. This is true of everyone when they first enter a knowledge of the laws of mind. They set out with high spirits and ambitions. They are the new broom which sweeps clean and are full of good intentions, oftentimes forgetting the source of power. They do not remain faithful to the principle within, which is scientific and effectual, that would lift them out of their negative experiences and set them on the high road to freedom and peace of mind. They begin to indulge mentally and emotionally with ideas and thoughts extraneous to their announced aim and goal. In other words, they are not faithful to their ideal or spouse. Know that the subjective or deeper self within you will accept your request, and being the great fabricator, it will bring it to pass in its own way. All you do is release your request with faith and confidence, the same way you would cast a seed on the ground or mail a letter to a friend, knowing the answer would come. Did you ever go between two great rocks and listen to the echo of your voice? This is the way the life principle within you answers. You will hear the echo of your own voice. Your voice is your inner mental movement of the mind, your inner psychological journey. There you feasted mentally on an idea until you were full, then you rested. Knowing this law and how to use it, be sure you never become drunk with power, arrogance, pride, or conceit. Use the law to bless, heal, inspire, and lift up others as well as yourself. People misuse the law by selfishly taking advantage of others. If you do, you hurt and attract loss to yourself. Power, security, and riches are not to be obtained externally. They come from the treasure house of eternity within. We should realize that the good wine is always present, for God is the eternal now. Regardless of present circumstances, you can prove your good is ever present by detaching yourself mentally from the problem, going on the high watch, and go about your divine parent's business. To go on the high watch is to envision your good, to dwell on the new concept of yourself, to become married to it, and sustain the happy mood by remaining faithful, full of faith every step of the way, knowing that the wine of joy, the answered prayer, is on the way. Now is the day of salvation. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Thou hast kept the good wine until now. You can, this moment, travel psychologically in your mind and enter mentally through divine imagination into any desired state. The wealth, health, or invention you wish to introduce are all invisible first. Everything comes out of the invisible. You must subjectively possess riches before you can objectively possess wealth. The feeling of wealth produces wealth, for wealth is a state of consciousness. A state of consciousness is how you think, feel, believe, and what you mentally give consent to. A teacher in California receiving about $5,000 or $6,000 a year looked in a window at a beautiful ermine coat that was priced at $8,000. She said, "It would take me years to save that amount of money. I could never afford it. Oh, how I want it." She listened to our lectures on Sunday mornings. By ceasing to marry these negative concepts, she learned that she could have a coat, car, or anything she wished without hurting anybody on the face of the earth. I told her to imagine she had the coat on, to feel its beautiful fur, and to get the feel of it on her. She began to use the power of her imagination prior to sleep at night. She put the imaginary coat on her, fondled it, and caressed it like a child does with her doll. She continued to do this and finally felt the thrill of it all. She went to sleep every night wearing this imaginary coat and being so happy in possessing it. 3 months went by and nothing happened. She was about to waver, but she reminded herself that it is the sustained mood which demonstrates. They who persevere to the end shall be saved. The solution will come to the person who does not waver, but always goes about with the perfume of God's presence with them. The answer comes to the one who walks in the light that it is done. You are always using the perfume of God's presence when you sustain the happy, joyous mood of expectancy, knowing your good is on the way. You saw it on the unseen, and you know you will see it in the seen. The sequel to the teacher's drama of the mind is interesting. One Sunday morning after our lecture, a man accidentally stepped on her toe, apologized profusely, asked her where she lived, and offered to drive her home. She accepted gladly. Shortly after, he proposed marriage, gave her a beautiful diamond ring, and said to her, "I saw the most wonderful coat. You would simply look radiant wearing it." It was the coat she admired 3 months previously. The salesman said over 100 wealthy women looked at the coat, admired it immensely, but for some reason always selected another garment. Through your capacity to choose, imagine the reality of what you have selected, and through faith and perseverance, you can realize your goal in life. All the riches of heaven are here now within you, waiting to be released. Peace, joy, love, guidance, inspiration, goodwill, and abundance all exist now. All that is necessary in order to express God's riches is for you to leave the present now, your limitation, enter into the mental picture or vision, and in a happy, joyous mood, become one with your ideal. Having seen and felt your good in moments of high exaltation, you know that in a little while you shall see your ideal objectively as you walk through time and space. As within, so without. As above, so below. As in heaven, so on earth. In other words, you will see your beliefs expressed. A person is belief expressed.